This week's episode of Fireside is brought to you by Legends of Belize and Wonders Oddities Expo.
Hello, everybody. You're listening to Fireside Paranormal Podcast. My name is Jordan Cline, and what a show we have planned out. This is the 1-year anniversary of Fireside Paranormal Podcast. Thank you all so much for sticking with me this year. Thank you so much for listening each week, and here's to another great year. My guest tonight is Tim Struna. He is a paranormal technology engineer with the Paranormal Hunting and Observation Group, PHOG. Before we get to him, just a few announcements.
Legends of Belize is a series about mythical creatures that dwell in the jungles and waters of Belize. The Belizean legends are captured, documented, and preserved like never before in a comprehensive art series and books with fully colored and detailed images of fine art by artists, authors, and award-winning animators Dismas and Grissi G. Discover the supernatural creatures that await deep in the jungles, such as the mysterious dwarf called Tata Duende with backwards feet, known to rip the thumbs off of trespassers, or the beautiful shape-shifting woman known to locals as the Ishtabai, who seduces drunks to never be seen again. These creatures and many more can be found in the Legends of Belize books. Learn about the cryptozoological, paranormal, and unexplained creatures that haunt Belize. Be fascinated. Be terrified. Belize. Legend of Belize books are available in print and ebook. Buy your copy from your favorite online bookstore such as Amazon, KDP, Apple Books, and many more. Also be sure to visit legendsofbelize.com.
I'm excited to announce an event coming up hosted by one of our sponsors, the Wonders Oddities Expo. This event is going to be October 8th and 9th in the Monroeville, PA Convention Center from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. There's going to be performers, vendors, speakers, a costume contest, and so much more. I'm going to be there too with my table set up, going to be recording some featured stories, and I got some fun new merch as well, so I would love to see you there. Let's start this 1-year anniversary off with a bang. Our first featured story comes in from Carliegh.
Hi, I am Carliegh Thompson. I am from Comfort, West Virginia, and it is a very quiet, secluded place. It is very haunted, which our house is. We have done multiple counts over the years. My family's very into spirits and stuff. One in particular has stuck around for generations. He haunts my aunt's house, which is where I live at the moment.
Okay.
We have done like Ouija boards and spirit boxes and stuff, and as far as we know, there's about 46 spirits in the house alone.
Really?
And there's one in particular that we have quoted as Seth. And we aren't sure who he is or how old he is, but all we know is that he loves to mess with this house.
Yeah?
We call him the trickster because when using a Ouija board, he does tend to kind of pretend he's someone else. And this has come off as very terrifying because in one particular, my cousin and her friend was doing the Ouija board and talking to him, and he literally came off as her dead grandfather.
Oh, gosh.
That died like 2 months before. So
how do you know that it's not, or how do you know that it's
in the end, he finally said it.
Okay.
I mean, he's like, yeah, whatever, I'm just messing with you. There's a few times to where I didn't really think it was him, but I mean, it's just been quoted as him. One particular time, I had a retic years ago. He just passed away. He loved this snake. And I mean, he would go over, and this snake had a lock on his cage that I could barely open. And I mean, this snake's cage would just randomly open and just pop it off and open. And I was just like, really? And like, you'll see little shadows out the corner of your eye, and that's what we've quoted as Seth.
Yeah.
Because that's honestly what we think it is. And we aren't really sure if this is actually his name or anything. I mean,
That's just what you call it?
Yeah, that's what this is quoted as. Closest it can get. But one particular time terrified me because I was in my room around 3:45 in the morning. I have insomnia, don't sleep too good. So I was wide awake, just chilling, talking to my friends. And I had a lamp on my desk that just started flickering like crazy. And I mean, I unplugged it, took the light bulb out and everything out, put it back in, see if it was the bulb. It wasn't. It stopped, and then it started again. And then I have a lot of stuffed animals. And one of them in particular that tend to move a lot was thrown up, and I mean thrown across my room.
Come on.
And you can ask my sister. One time she was over, and I had a rose quartz on my desk, and it was flung off. And I don't know what it was. He did not like that crystal.
Wow.
But, I mean, several instances of children laughing in the hallway. A lot of things being moved around. I mean, one time I was coming through the hallway at the dark, terrified of the dark, first of all. This didn't help. Walking with my flashlight, cat looked behind me, hissed, and ran. And I was just like, no. I sprinted. Not one to see what was behind me. But, I mean, my whole family has seen stuff like this. And, I mean, like, stuff thrown off the table. It'll be midday. Doors will open. Doors will shut. Lights will flicker. Cats will be kind of, like, scooted. Cats are terrified.
Yeah, scooting cats.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's just wild that we think this one is Seth. But, honestly, with 40-some spirits in the house, never really know.
That's awesome.
And, I mean, I shared one with her that in my high school, which I'm in junior year now, sophomore year, I started a club called Ghost.
Really?
And me and my friends got with this teacher, and we did EMF and everything else. And, I mean, he shared stories of instances of seeing things moving, and even in his room particularly, he would hear children crawling through the vents.
What?
When he was told a story about a little boy that was trapped in the school and dead in the vents, and he would hear stuff knocking, and the reason we know nothing was up there is because several exterminators were called, and they're like, there's nothing up here, these vents are clean, and they're the old vents that aren't used. So he's like, okay, whatever, like, just, it's fine. And then stuff started, like, moving and touching him and everything else, and he started freaking out. So we got a ghost group together that all of us believed about. And one particular time, we went upstairs. My high school's 2 stories.
Okay.
We went upstairs, and there's this yearbook section in this little closet, and it was locked. And one of my friends is a medium.
Okay.
So she says, there's something up here that is attached to me specifically. And I think she called her TJ. It was a girl that died in a heart attack. And she died in the building. And she was specifically attached to her. And I mean, the second we walked in this room, we just got a whiff of heavy air. And I was just like, oh, I don't like this. And Tristan's like, nope, I'm not going in there. And I was like, oh, come on, it can't be that bad. Went in, stuff started moving around. And I was like, no. And then we went in the hallway. And we were thinking the thing in the vents was attached to one of my other friends. So she was like, wonder what that's all about. Got on the floor listening, and you could hear, like, footsteps in the vents. You could hear it, like, knocking. And I was just like, don't like that. There was just so many stories, and it's crazy.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Carliegh. Up next, Kailey.
So my name's Kailey. I'm from the Pittsburgh area, but also Weirton. I am the Golden Deer Tarot. I read tarot and also am a medium. So obviously my abilities have been growing, and I've been seeing more and more, and it's always a fun ride of trying to tell them to leave you alone. But I think my favorite ghost encounter was just a couple weeks ago. I was at a shop reading tarot, and they were unboxing Ouija boards, and I don't mess with Ouija boards, as shocking as that probably sounds as a tarot reader. And she sets this Ouija board down in front of me, and I don't put my hands on it, because again, don't mess with Ouija boards. And I am looking at it, I'm telling the other person, I don't mess with these. And a man from the 1940s was standing next to me. He had brown pants, brown shoes, brown shirt, top hat, mustache, like just very old. And he said, do it. And I said, no. And I said, take the board now. So we don't tell the owner, because she was busy in the back doing something. And the owner comes back out, and I was like, hey, I said, go to that board. And it's a brand new board. Like, it was a pendulum and a Ouija board. Really cool, right? And the owner comes back out, and she puts her hands over the thing. And she was like, ew, I don't like this energy. She's like, why does this thing feel like it's from the 1940s? And we all started busting up laughing. I don't know who this man was, but he was older, standing next to me, and he wanted me to talk to him. And I was like, I'm not talking to you today. Have nothing to do with you.
Now, just as a question, like, what is it about Ouija boards that you don't want anything to do with?
I think sometimes the spirits that come through them don't have the best intentions. I don't think people open them properly and close them properly. So it's just not something that I want to mess with. I think that they can be fun and they can be really interesting to do, but it's just so hard not to get yourself into a situation where you're not getting like an attachment or speaking to somebody that just doesn't have the best intentions.
Why risk it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kailey. Up next, April.
So my name is April Redden, and I live in Pleasants County, West Virginia.
Welcome.
A very rural community. I have a couple odd things happened to me at my house. We live in a small house. We're just the second family that ever owned it. The people we bought it from had the house built.
Yeah.
So there's not like any kind of spooky history. But one thing that happened a few years ago, I was home alone. My daughter was at school. My husband was at work. I was home with my 3 little dogs. I was back in the bedroom, which is at the back of the house, folding laundry. The other end of the house, which is a small house, so you can hear things all over the house, is the kitchen, and there's a door that goes into the garage. Well, I was folding laundry, and I heard the garage door open and close.
Oh, come on.
I heard my 3 little dogs. They were in the living room on a chair. I heard them jump down out of the chair and run into the living room, and I heard somebody walking. So we don't have carpet. We just have wood floors and laminate, so the sound carries. Well, I assumed it was my husband because he works not very far from where we live, and every once in a while he'll have to come home and get a tool from the garage or something. So I just assumed it was him. And I waited, and he didn't holler at me or come to find me or anything, and I was like, okay, that's weird. So I went in the kitchen. The dogs were in the kitchen staring at the door. There was nobody in there. Nobody was in the house. The dogs were staring at the door, which is something they will normally do when my husband does come and go, because they'll hear his truck or whatever, and they'll go wait for him to come in and follow him. So I thought, well, maybe he came in and went back out for some reason. Maybe he didn't think I was there or something. So I walked outside, or I walked into the garage first. Nobody in the garage. Walked outside. Nobody outside. His truck wasn't there. Nothing. So I was like, okay, that was weird. But I was so sure, like, I know I heard something. And the dogs reacted too. So the dogs had to have heard something too. And I knew they didn't hear like somebody breaking into the house because they would have barked. They just acted like they do when a family member comes. So I actually called my husband and I said, were you just at the house getting tools or something? And he said, no, I'm at the shop. And I know he was at the shop because I could hear the noises in the background. And I said, you didn't come home just like a few minutes ago. And he was like, no. And I said, I literally heard somebody come in the house and there's nobody here. And of course he said, well, it's probably just, I don't know, your imagination or something. I don't know. But I definitely heard something. So anyway, so that happened. But I wasn't, the weird thing is I didn't really feel scared. I just felt like, wow, that was really weird. So whatever it was, it didn't seem like it was any intent to hurt me or anything like that. So then fast forward a few years to recently, a few months ago, I work outside of the home now. When the other incident happened, I stayed home. But my husband, he gets up and leaves a couple hours before I do. So one morning I was in bed and I woke up. I have a medication I have to take early, so I keep it by my bed. I woke up, took the medication, lay back down, and my husband reached over and started rubbing my head. And that's not unusual because when I have headaches, he'll rub my head, and I had a headache the day before. But then I suddenly realized, oh, he should be at work. So I turned around real fast to say, why are you not at work? And there was nobody there.
Oh, I knew that was coming.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, maybe he went in the bathroom. So I called his name. I was like, Lonnie. Nothing. And I looked over at the side table where he keeps his hat and his work badge and everything, and it was all gone. So he was gone. He was not there. But something touched my head. But again, as odd as it sounds, I didn't feel afraid. I actually just laid back down and, laid in bed for a little while longer till I had to get up and get ready to go to work. But I don't know. That's it. That's my two spooky things.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, April. And now that it's October, I want to remind you guys that the Halloween episode is quickly coming up. My goal is for that show to be 100% listener stories. So now is your time. If you were ever holding back from sending your story in, now is your time. Email me, firesideparanormalpodcast@gmail.com. You can write it in. You can record it. If you write it in, we can read it for you. But we want you to be heard. We want your story out there, and it's going to be a great time. So make sure you get that to me, firesideparanormalpodcast@gmail.com. Send me those stories.
Have you encountered something you can't explain? Do you believe in the paranormal but haven't experienced it? Are you a skeptical believer too? My name is Kristen and I host the Paranormal Girl podcast. My show is an education in the paranormal. Join me as we explore a different topic each season and dissect origins, theories, experts, and so much more. Whether it's life after death, cryptids, ghosts, or any other paranormal topic, we will pull it apart and put it back together again to fully understand it. If you're a fascinated skeptic, a believer yearning to know more, if you're looking for an education in the paranormal, I'm your Paranorm Girl.
All right, I want to get to my guest. Join me by the fire as we welcome Tim Struna. He is with the Paranormal Hunting and Observation Group. He is actually the Paranormal Technology Engineer. Tim, you with us?
Yes, Jordan, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Do you appreciate it?
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Excellent. And I just want to shout out a quick congratulations. I understand it's your 1 year anniversary of being on the Fireside podcast too, as well.
Yes, thank you very much. 1 year, it's a big deal, especially in the podcast world. A lot of shows don't make it. So, big shout out to folks like you that want to come out to the show or come onto the show, and then, for everybody listening, as long as they keep listening, I'll keep putting it out there. So, big appreciation to everybody who listens. So, all of you by the fire.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excellent. Absolutely. I'm very delighted. It certainly is a pleasure.
So, Tim, you are with PHOG, and we've had, for those of you who do listen pretty regularly, Jose and Angel Gonzalez. We've had them on the show a few times. You're in the group with them, but you handle all the tech, right?
Yes, that is correct. I do handle most of the tech, a lot of the a lot of the devices that are pretty much on the lines of electromagnetic sensors, EMF detectors, tri-film meters, digital voice recorders, infrared devices, a lot of camera, video equipment, and several other devices that I personally work on and invent and experiment and test with that we personally use in the field of paranormal with PHOG.
Here's a question I have for you. This is a new one for me. IVP, sure. Infrasound voice phenomena. What is that?
I'm really glad that you asked that question, Jordan. IVP, first of all, we all heard the term and we all hear the term in the paranormal community, electronic voice phenomena.
Uh-huh.
And where IVP came along was something I developed through years of extensive research, reviewing and analyzing voice phenomena using very sophisticated software, utilizing sonographic methods and techniques through the sophisticated software as well, pretty much taking the wavelength and making it three-dimensional. So instead of looking at a standard wavelength, you're looking at the wavelength in a three-dimensional fashion.
Okay.
So by doing that, one of the trends I noticed when we were investigating a lot of our EVPs, as they so call it, noticed a phenomena in a lot of the frequencies that we were analyzing, the voice phenomena. And in those wavelengths, we noticed there was a breach, a gap. There was really nothing there when you looked at it visually. But when I looked at it even further, Inside of that breach was where the phenomena, the voice phenomena, was occurring. Now, I had a long discussion with Jose and Angel, and mentioned to them, really this is not electronic. The phenomena is not coming from the electronic side. The phenomena is coming from the infrasound side. And so if we can envision the infrasound being somewhere on the lines of, we can't really hear it, but sometimes dogs can hear it.
Okay, I was going to ask you what that was.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, on the infrasound level, that is where I feel that the voice phenomena, and oftentimes it can be intelligent, is coming from. So rather than saying EVP for electronic voice phenomena, I like to say infrasound voice phenomena, because the phenomena is actually occurring at the infrasound level. And so that's one of the things that we concluded. So we now use that as a term too as well. There may be some out there in the paranormal field that may challenge that, and that's perfectly okay, totally understand that. But on the scientific level, the phenomena is actually occurring in the infrasound wavelength.
Now, is this with every EVP, or every voice phenomena, I guess, that we hear? You're catching that through the infrasound?
Exactly. So technically, even though it's called EVP, electronic voice phenomena, it really scientifically would be infrasound voice phenomena, because again, the phenomena is occurring, the artifact is occurring on the infrasound level.
That's very interesting. I've never heard that before.
Yes, it sure is, and really caught us by surprise. And we actually stumbled across it by accident when we were doing some extensive analyzing through some EVPs, and noticed these patterns. And it was quite an extensive feat, but yet surprising. So we're pretty proud of that one. We're proud of taking the time and the years of research and the time going through and actually analyzing different EVPs that we've captured through our paranormal investigations. And so very compelling, nevertheless, to say.
Now, what is your background? Because you are very thorough, it sounds. So what did you do? What do you do?
Yeah, thank you for asking, Jordan. My background, first of all, and I appreciate you asking, is I am retired military, retired from the Marine Corps.
Thank you for your service.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, and I'm very grateful. In the aviation sector, and a lot of that encompassed a lot of the engineering, aviation engineering aspects and trades and craft and things like that. Carrying that on forward, I graduated from Florida State College, was accepted at a couple of universities to study electronic engineering. I didn't pursue it all the way through. I had an obligation to take care of my sons, because I was also still in the process of finishing up with the military as well.
Yeah.
But in the interim of that, I moved forward and started a career in information systems technology, IT. And I had been doing that for several years, probably about 27 years or so. And then moved into another area of expertise that's more in the realm of working closely with engineers, various specialties and things like that. So I take great pride in that, and I just have a savvy for science, research, the paranormal, and more importantly, just doing a lot of research and inventing a lot of neat devices and testing them out, and working with them and getting them out there. Hopefully, we got a couple here that I actually just recently developed, and pretty excited to get those out in the field and work them in the paranormal investigations.
So you're building your
come out.
own, ghost hunting tech, right?
That is correct. Yes.
So what are you building, and how does it differ from what's out there now?
That's a good question. Give you a good example of some of the things that I'm building is basically developed through directional electromagnetic accelerator devices. It's basically a series of extremely high-powered magnets and other counter-rotating magnets that have opposite poles. And so when this thing spins at a very high speed, basically, if you can imagine it as being an EM pulse or whatever, sort of at a low value. You may have heard them on other paranormal shows, documentaries called EM pumps.
Okay.
Well, basically, that's how this functions. So the counter-rotating magnets emit a high electromagnetic energy, usually within a 9 to 10 feet radius. So you're pretty much charging up the environment in order to activate, or in order to basically set the environment to capture certain paranormal evidence. So it could be used in that fashion too as well. That one I kind of nicknamed the dead box, again abbreviated as directional electromagnetic accelerator device. Another one I'm working on, I actually just finished it. It's a digital audio recorder and an EMF detector all in one. It's a EMF sensing device all in one. And that one there, we use basically, you can deploy it on a person or anything like that, or set it anywhere that's in a paranormal environment, and collect not only IVPs, but you can also collect electromagnetic readings too as well. Now, in addition to that, I've incorporated what's called an LED type microphone. So whenever you ask a question and you wait for a response, if that LED lights up, it's actually picking up an EVP or an IVP. And the digital audio recorder automatically senses that, and it will record that. So that's your cue to go back and review. Hey, we got an EVP. Let's go back and review it.
Now,
So,
have you tested that in the field yet?
That one we're actually looking to use on our next paranormal investigation. I just finished testing that one, so I'm real proud and excited to use that one.
What has the success rate been? That's very curious because, a lot of times with doing the EVP stuff or IVP, you don't catch this, you don't hear it in the natural. You catch it up late, or, you hear it later. So with this device, it lights up whenever it senses that voice?
Exactly, yes.
Wow.
Yes. So the key thing is using protocol when you use it. So when you ask the question, stop. You preferably want to be there with one person, probably if 3 is the max, but preferably 1 or 2 person at the most. So again, protocol used when using it, you ask the question, pause, completely silence. And when you see that thing light up, you're getting an EVP, then you can queue, you can go back, review it instantly, and more than likely you should get an EVP or an IVP. So it's an easier way of knowing, hey, it kind of takes the guesswork out, did we get an EVP or not? This way you have a little bit more of an idea that you did get an EVP. In addition to that, Jordan, I've incorporated an EMF detector on there, and it will light up if it detects electromagnetic energy. So now you got 2 modalities combined. So that's going to further substantiate your abilities to know and to collect the EVP or the IVP that's occurring on the digital audio recorder.
You stick a flashlight on that bad boy, you got the Swiss Army knife of ghost hunting.
I am working really hard to get the Swiss Army knife of paranormal investigation.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Now you do a lot of research on Tesla as well in your investigations. How does that work?
I'm really glad that you asked and mentioned that, Jordan. Tesla is a big inspiration. I think Tesla is a very extraordinary person historically, and I mean, just the things that he invented and that he saw and understood, and he had a thing for the number 3, actually prime numbers 3, 6, and 9. He had a thing for those numbers. A lot of people thought he was autistic, but rather than that, I think he was a savante when it came to energy. This guy knew energy inside out. Obviously, he created and invented the alternating current. But for those of you out there that don't know, Tesla was actually born exactly 12 midnight in the middle of a lightning storm. So
Really?
how ironic is that? In addition to that, he was actually born and grew up probably about 30 miles from where my grandmother came from in the very southern part of Austria back then, which is probably now Slovenia. And so that's all quite interesting, and I just find it very fascinating through that aspect. And but yeah, I'm a big fan of Tesla. I'm very inspired by his work. He did have a niche in curiosity for the paranormal too, as well, and understood it in many ways than other people would sort of look at it. And you know, one of the things that Tesla said too is, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, you want to think in the terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And how right is he on that? Because a lot of my research and a lot of the devices that I work with and create and even look forward to go out there and testing drive off of those factors. I think a lot of the paranormal phenomena that occurs out there is also on the lines of Renaissance. And with that is all encapsulated together with, sound frequency, vibration, and sound all together. And that's why some mediums, some psychics or mystics can even pick up on those, because that is way on the other side of the infrasound level, your vibrations and your frequencies. So pretty fascinating. Yes, Tesla is a very inspiring key figure of mine. So yes.
And this is kind of wrapping up to my next question here. I know there are some groups that have like a Tesla coil that they will take on investigations. Is that something that you've ever done?
You know, it's funny you said that, because I do actually have a Tesla coil. I've actually built one, and I plan on using that too when we see it fit. There is a time and place to use a Tesla coil, but if the opportunity exists and it's used correctly, by all means, yes. We do have one, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to use it and to do some experiments with and maybe test and see what we get from it too as well. Another one too, while we're mentioning it, Jordan, is the Jacob's ladder. I've actually built one of those too as well.
Really?
So yes, absolutely. Both of them pretty much powered with pretty significant levels of electricity. I mean, you're taking the standard 110 volts and stepping it up into a transformer, into a little bit higher voltage, and running it both through the Jacob's ladder and the Tesla coil. Now, it's the Renaissance that actually comes from the between the primary and secondary coil of the Tesla coil itself. And once that resonance has been established, that's where you get the increase in voltage. So at the tip of it, out the very top of the toroid, you get a pretty nice size electrical bolt that comes out of it. So to most people, it's very intimidating, but for me, it's not. It's I have a fascination for electricity, plasma energy, and I think there's a very close relationship with that, and also the paranormal. Now, one of the things I also want to mention too, I have a key interest, a high interest, is how does energy become intelligent?
Okay,
How can
there you
energy
go.
be intelligent? And because of that, that's where all this starts to play into factor. I want to know how energy can be intelligent. So, where am I going with this? The paranormal. We know that the paranormal, a lot of the phenomena out there, the paranormal is measured by electromagnetic anomalies and that sort of thing. That's energy. But when it responds back to you intelligently, how can that energy be intelligent? So we think of ourselves as physical entities. We're beings. We have a brain. We have skin. We have organs. And we talk, communicate, think, and do whatever. That's intelligence. But now, this is a phenomena that doesn't require any of that. It's energy. But yet it's responding back to you. And so the key question for me, I guess the drive for me is that, how is energy intelligent? So, and kind of molding that into a lot of my paranormal research, it is really fascinating. So I can go in really deep, spend hours and talk to you
Well,
about
here's
it.
a question. Here's a question, you
Yeah.
know, and it's just, you know, throwing it out there because that's what I'm good at. You know,
Sure.
if energy is what you have the issue with being intelligent, do you think that there is something out there, maybe the spirit, you know, whatever you want to call it, that is manipulating the energy at that point? So there's something else that's intelligent moving the energy.
That I love how you said that, Jordan, and that's spot on. That is plausible. That is definitely plausible. And because of that, could it be that the energy is simply a residual artifact that separates our reality between their reality? What if we are ghosts to them?
Yeah.
So you could go in so many different directions with this, but the key thing is, you know, doing the right research, doing the right experiments, using the right devices, and you know, just using a collective yet creative mind to try to comprehend and understand that concept, the concept that you just mentioned. You know, what if they're you know, some sort of an entity, but they have the ability to manipulate energy? That is very plausible.
Now, you had said,
so
with the Tesla coil, you said that the conditions had to be right place, right time. What do you mean by that?
That's a good question. It's somewhere where you don't really want to use it. If, say, there's an area or a location that is said or to even have been experienced, whether it be by people or other paranormal investigators, that could be bad or evil or negative and that sort of thing. You don't want to use this thing to sort of amplify it. You're sort of taking some risks because we really don't know fully what those properties can do. So when it's used correctly and good notes are taken and good observation and that sort of thing to bring one step closer to a conclusion, to coming up with answers to a specific theory, then I think we can safely say, hey, you know, the Tesla coil is capable of doing this, yet you don't want to use it for this. And it could even be the same for like a Ouija board. You know, you don't want to use that because you really don't know who you're talking to. And, you know, when we grow up as kids, our parents tell us, hey, don't talk to strangers. Well, we have people that use a Ouija board, which is totally their decision, and I respect that. I'm personally not in favor of them because you really don't know who you're talking to. And so, Jordan, that's why I like the intelligence side of it. I want to understand if I have intelligence behind it, then I can further understand that. and a lot of other things carry into that too. What's called ITC, intertrans communication, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Devices like the SB7, SB11, that sort of thing. The Geo box, the Frank's box, and that sort of thing. Which, by the way, Frank's box, I'm actually looking at building an enhanced version of that too as well.
Nice.
Yes.
So what got you into the paranormal? I know that's kind of like a cliche question, but like you're very studied. I don't want to say you're a lot smarter than me, but I can hear by your talking that I know it's true. What got you into this world?
I really appreciate you asking that, Jordan. And to be honest with you, by accident. And so, yes. So it was back, I want to say somewhere in 2003, 2004. The month was June. I had just gotten out of the military and taken on a new career, and I had both of my sons in the sport of football in their schools. One was in middle school and one was still in elementary school. So I came home from work, and their football practice didn't get done until a little bit before 6 in the evening. So I was getting ready to go over to the school field house there and join them, and I was just taking a little break. And I remember specifically, I was drinking a glass of orange juice, and I was sitting on the couch, just kind of, taking a break, getting ready for the evening and that sort of thing. And I caught something out of the corner of my eye, and then I gradually rolled my eyes up, yet keeping my head straight forward. And I saw an apparition of an older woman. Her feet didn't touch the ground. In fact, I couldn't even see her feet.
Oh, wow.
They were very opaque, translucent. And the further you looked up, the more solid it was. Face was obviously pale, long, gray. Some of it had some dark streaks in it. And she was looking down at me, and her eyes, all of her eyes, the entire eye set, were black. And it lasted for about maybe 2.5 seconds. 1,000, 2, 1,000, gone. And I looked, and I'm like, okay, what the heck did I just see? So this is where it gets interesting. We were renting the house at that time, and we were getting ready to buy it. And the owner said, hey, Tim, go ahead and you can start renovating it, and we're going to work on the contract for you guys to buy the house. So it was kind of a rent to buy. It was an older house, too. It was built in 1955. So another day I came home, and I started doing work in the kitchen and doing some remodeling and putting down some new tile and countertop. But I came home from work, and I noticed all of the cabinets, drawers, everything were completely open.
Oh.
All of them. And I'm like, okay, what the heck? So I called the owner up, and I asked her, I said, hey, any chance we're in the house? Was somebody looking for something or anything like that? She's like, no, hon. And she's very Southern, being in Virginia and all that. Remember her accent. But she's like, no, hon, no. And I'm like, well, she's like, is everything okay? And I'm like, well, and I just kind of played it off, and I said, well, yeah, everything's okay. I was just kind of curious. And so went home and closed everything up, went and picked up my boys from football practice that day. And a few days passed by, and my youngest son, he's probably about 9 years old at that time, wakes me up about 3:30 in the morning. He's like, Dad. I'm like, what do you want? He's like, Dad. And I'm like, everything okay? He's like, there's a lady, she's standing in the bathroom, and she's telling me to be quiet. She's got her finger over her mouth and saying,
no,
quiet, don't say anything.
No.
And I'm like, well, what does she look like? And he described her the same way I saw her. So I'm like, okay, that's it. So the next day, I went up to the owner. I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. This may sound kind of crazy. Have you known there to be anything? Because I've never had this happen to me. She's like, well, they built that house for Myrna, and, she's lived there all her life, and she died there, and she loved that house. I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, wait, hon, I have a picture of her. She showed me a picture of her. And Jordan, I about rolled inside out of my skin when I saw that. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it.
Was it spot on?
So, spot on. And this is where it gets more interesting. Going to and from work, picking the boys up at that time from football practice, I started getting these phantom calls. The phone number would be like the display would be lit up in all zeros or all nines or something like that.
Oh, man.
And I heard like an older lady, and it sounded really like she was far, far away, like distance, and mumbling. And now that I understand it as a paranormal investigator, it sounded just like an EVP, or what I call now AVP, but coming through the cell phone. So I was getting these phantom calls. So everything started to calm down after I got the whole house situated and everything like that. But I started getting drawn to interest in, hey, what if this whole paranormal thing is kind of real? Because my goodness, I mean, what I've went through. So I transferred positions to come back out west. And I was actually working with Jose, where he works now.
Uh-huh.
And the area where I worked, being in IT, I would have to work late, sometimes in the middle of the night, to do database upgrades and things like that. Well, mind you, I'm the only one in the office. I'm upgrading my servers and everything like that. And I had a office mate next to me, and I thought, I was the only one there, and I thought he had came in because I felt his hand on my shoulder, literally. I mean, I could feel the thumb, the fingers, and I'm like, what do you want, Anthony? I thought, what are you doing working so late? And I turned around, no one was there.
Mm.
And I looked, went to his office, up and down the whole work area, the whole cubicles, everything. No one was there but me. So I opened up the door outside and looked up and down the hall, didn't see anything. 10 minutes later, I opened up the door, looked down the hall. There was a security guard, and I'm like, hey, do you see anybody come out in and out of the hallway or anything? He's like, no, you're the only one up here. I'm like, okay. So I sit down, continue my work, and I feel another hand. I'm like, this is nuts. And then I start hearing things getting shuffled around in other offices.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So I talked to one of the ladies that I worked there. She had worked there for a long time, and she was a nurse. And she said, yeah, Tim, where your office is, all that area used to be an ICU ward. Patients died there. I'm like, okay. So basically, I started to get more and more interested in it. And I met Jose at that time, and him and I shared a lot of common stories and things like that. He has a wonderful culture that he shared with me, and his family history and all that. And I'm like, hey, what do you think about the paranormal? So we got to talking about that. And a few months later, him and I were talking about, hey, what if we go out there and do paranormal investigations and all that? So we were kicking the whole idea around, and he came up with a whole bunch of cool ideas. Really brilliant. Jose's just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he's quite the guy.
And he came up with the name PHOG, Paranormal Hunting Observation Group. And I'm like, wow, this is incredible. You got it, Jose. I mean, this is it. This fits us. So we went out and we started doing investigations everywhere, and it was great. We learned a lot. Just to name some of the things that we've captured, several EVPs, of course, orbs, intelligent orbs, some physical experiences, apparitions, full body apparitions.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Would you say, because you've done a lot of investigations, and do you still work with Jose? No,
I actually
moved.
do.
You moved.
That's a good question.
But let me round it out first before you answer that. Do you think hospitals or prisons are more haunted?
Both are. And it all depends on how the person left. If they left in peace, or if they left and they don't know it, or if they left and they feel that there's some things that are left undone. Prisons are a different environment.
Yeah.
There's obviously different energy in there, and a lot of them are resentful, so they carry that energy with them. Well, I'm not ready yet. I'm just going to stick around and kind of, be a nuisance, that sort of thing. So, yes, I think they're both. They both have the potential to be definitely haunted.
I've always wondered, because prisons, everybody always goes to the prisons. They always have the big events, but there's not a lot in some of these rundown hospitals. And you would think that they're probably just as active. Like here in Wheeling, I'm in Wheeling, West Virginia, so we have the West Virginia State Penitentiary right down the road. And then right in Wheeling, it was the Ohio Valley Medical Center. It's a huge hospital that's so old and so much history that's just sitting empty. And you're thinking, man, the penitentiary is self-sustaining now pretty much from its paranormal tourism, but the hospital, nothing.
Yeah, and again, it could be, was there trauma there? Did the majority of the people, when they passed, did they pass peacefully?
Yeah, I've heard some stories about that place.
That sort of thing. Back in the day when they had tuberculosis, I know that was kind of a big thing. A lot of people didn't want to die from it, and they weren't ready for it. So you get things like that. So it could be dependent on the hospital. Maybe they had good, morbidity rates where they put a lot of care into their patients and letting them know, hey, it's okay to pass, to cross over, whatever. And so maybe the good majority of them, chose that. So it really depends on the environment, the area, but prisons are more than likely, like you said, to have the potential to carry more of the haunting. And because the residual, the energy, some of it could be negative, that sort of thing.
So tell me, you're working kind of with Jose now, but not. You were getting into that. I interrupted you.
Oh yeah. So I spent a few years with PHOG, and I stepped away. I was going through some family matters, life-changing events, sort of divorce and starting a new life and all that. So I kind of had a reset on that aspect. And I'm married to my beautiful wife Gina. We've been married since 2013. But I've always had Jose and his family and the family of PHOG in the back of my mind. And I think it was back in early spring, they invited me to attend one of their meetings and invite me back into PHOG. So it certainly is an honor, and I'm very grateful to be able to have the opportunity to contribute a lot of my skill set and to be able to work with such a talented team. Each individual that's on the team carries their such great value and talent and expertise in one way or the other. And Angel, I mean, she's a gem because she's a person that has an ability that most people don't have, and I have a lot of respect for that. I like to see her as kind of the spear or the arrowhead of our team because she could see and feel things before we can.
Really?
And I hold that to a lot of high value. Our devices and everything, that's just icing on the cake. That's just to help people understand and see and to substantiate. But really, what I think is fascinating, and I'm really drawn to interest to, is the spirituality part of it too as well. Is there more to this than, just devices and science and, So I'm constantly evaluating, I'm constantly asking questions and seeking answers and, just a thirst for research and knowledge in the paranormal. I never take anything and say, okay, that's just the way it's going to be. I mean, who are we as humans to be arrogant and to create laws or whatever and the rules and standards of the paranormal when we really don't fully understand it? And so I think, to be fair, taking the time to read, research, understand, observe, that sort of thing, I think it's fair to have a good approach on the paranormal field rather than being subjective. Using an objective approach, I think, is the best. And another thing I like about our team, great ethics, great work ethic.
That can make or break a team quick.
Absolutely. And I carry that value with me from the Marine Corps too as well. And nonprofit. And to me, I love public service, and I've been doing that for several years. And I think it's wonderful for someone to be able to give a part of their career, their life, and their time to public service, to contribute, to donate, to fundraise, whatever it may be. I think it's great, and we need more of that in this world today. The way the world is sort of upside down right now, and it's okay to take a little bit of time to go out and care and contribute and do things for your community and that sort of thing.
Here is my big question for you, and I will hate myself if I don't ask. But all of your time in military service, right, in the Marine Corps, what are your thoughts on UFOs?
I am really glad that you asked that one too.
Oh, you got excited with that. I'm ready.
I sure did. Yes, I am really excited about that one. Someone that has an strong aviation background, I find the UFO, and now the big term is called UAP. That's the term. And for those of you out there that don't know what UAP is, it's unidentified aerial phenomena. So they've kind of broadened the spectrum. In some cases, it may not be an object; it may just be a phenomenon.
Uh-huh.
So, but I hope you're ready for what I'm about to tell you.
Oh, buckle up, Buttercup. We're about to get deep.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with, with one person's idea. This has to do with what I've learned and studied and theorized and kind of put together that somewhat makes sense in the laws of the universe, in physics, quantum physics. I think that UFOs have the ability, and this could be intelligent, that could be millions of years ahead of us, that they have the technology and the ability to manipulate space-time around themselves, around their aircraft. If you have an aircraft that goes from 25,000 feet down to sea level in 0.03 seconds, you would be soup, according to flight physiology, and I know that. But what if you harness, or what if you can harness, what if one intelligent being had the ability to harness an energy which they have the ability to control, to manipulate space-time around their aircraft? So guess what? They're no longer traveling against air, friction, wind, air density. They're traveling through space-time. They can control it. So imagine a bubble being around that craft, and they can control that. So they're really, that craft or object or phenomena is traveling inside of basically a vacuum, basically like space, because there's no gravity out in space. It's a total vacuum. So the term I like to use is repulsion, not propulsion. Repulsion. It's the opposite, or as some may know it, levitation, that sort of thing. So that's one thing I've been heavily inundated into researching and learning about, and the plausible theories that may of how I think UFOs and UAPs may be operating. Now, are they all UFOs and UAPs? Probably not. The big issue we have now are drones. I mean, people are flying them everywhere. So you have to be real careful what you discern out there, and a lot of things on the internet and stuff like that. So it takes a lot of work. It just actually makes it that much more challenging.
Yeah.
So
I've had some folks say that a lot of the phenomena that we would consider, UFOs, a lot of that is actually from the Earth. Like whatever these creatures or whatever this phenomena is coming from is right here terrestrial and not from space. You have any thoughts on that?
I really don't know, or I haven't really heard much scope in that area.
Okay.
I do find that interesting, though, because, I mean, the Earth does have its own energy, okay? We have a core that spins, over 30,000 miles an hour. That's creating energy. It's liquid. It's super duper hot, molten. It's so dense. And that energy, as it's spinning, and then the magma counter-rotating around that, is generating what's called a magnetosphere, and that's basically our shield. So that is the key right there. Think of the Earth, if the Earth were a UFO, and you can generate that same energy to where you are just there, you're levitating, you can move around or do whatever. So does the Earth have energy within itself? Yes, I do. That's 100% given. Are there phenomena out there? There could be. There's things that are called sprites. It's lightning that comes up from the Earth, and some of it comes up through the stratosphere, where they can oftentimes be seen by the space station and that sort of thing.
Really?
So you have phenomena like that too. So
that's cool. Where can people find you? Like if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to learn more about your research, or they want to get a handle on some of your gadgets that you're inventing, how do folks get up with you?
Right now, I don't have a Facebook web page yet, or a Facebook page. I plan on setting that up here soon. But probably the best way is to reach out to PHOG's web page, and it's the official Paranormal Hunting Observation Group. Jose is the lead. He's the team lead of that group. And we also have a YouTube channel as well. It's the official Paranormal Hunting Observation Group. And so those are some avenues that one can take. In addition to that, I do have an email address. My email is PHOG, and that's pronounced FOG. That's the abbreviation for our group. Again, that's PHOG .ghostwriter. That's GHOSTRYDER @gmail.com. So that's fog.ghostwriter@gmail.com.
And so I didn't even get into that. So everybody listening, with FOG, with the group, they all have nicknames. So you're Ghost Rider. Jose is
yes.
Batman. What is Angel?
I'm not sure if we really gave one, or she has one yet. She has a few ideas, and I don't want to name one and be incorrect. But she certainly is a wonderful individual with extraordinary abilities that I have the utmost respect for.
What are some of the other nicknames for the group?
Well, I know we got Jose. We call him Batman sometimes. And one thing that we do utilize a lot is Jose and Angel have a dog, and his name's Jackson, and we call him Pug. So every now and then we like to use the nickname Pug, and if Pug sees something he doesn't like or he's uncomfortable, we kind of narrate it for him and say, nope. So anywhere we go on a paranormal investigation, if it's somewhere where we don't feel comfortable with or something like that, we say, nope. So, and that's something that Jose came up with, and it's a hoot. It's pretty funny. We all have a great sense of humor, outstanding team cohesion, and just wonderful. We got like the perfect six, as Jose and I like to say. So, but yeah.
That is awesome. I want to thank you again so much for coming onto the show this week. Thanks for celebrating the 1 year anniversary of Fireside Paranormal Podcast. And I'm sure we're going to have you back on.
Absolutely, Jordan. I'd certainly be honored and delighted, and love to cover more topics like portals, vortexes, and things like that. Some of the theories and studies and research I have behind that. Good example would be the Skinwalker Ranch, Chaco Canyon, some of the other ones that hold a lot of mysterious value to them.
Oh, well, in a few minutes for the Patreon, I am going to be asking you about Skinwalker Ranch for sure.
That sounds great. It sounds great, Jordan.
All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We will be talking again.
It certainly is a pleasure and honor, and like to thank everybody out there for taking the time to listen to as well.
You have a good night.
Thank you, Jordan. You too as well.
Bye. And with that, the fire is out. Thank you so much, Tim, and thank all of you for listening. I really appreciate y'all staying with me this past year. I have some really big plans for the show. If you haven't connected with me yet on social media, Facebook is Fireside Paranormal Hub, Instagram, Twitter, that's at Fireside Parapod, Parapod, TikTok. Now is the time to join Patreon, patreon.com/Fireside Paranormal. Lots of bonus audio right now. We're doing the interview section ad-free and uncensored. First tier is only $1. There is the Discord server, name drop, and all kinds of extras. But since it is spooky season now in full force, I have some big plans for the Patreon. So again, patreon.com/Fireside Paranormal. Check out the website, firesideparanormal.com, to get all your sweet, sweet, sweet Fireside merch. And until next week, everybody, don't be afraid, only believe.